One of the most difficult things in field sales is really understanding how to structure your team. Some organizations have the full cycle salesperson and they hunt all the way to close. Other people have them broken up by roles and responsibility. In this conversation, we dig deep into the reason why we really need to focus on having specific hunters versus farmers and how Thomas was able to do that. Buckle in, it's a great episode. So, share with us a bit about how you started your career and how you ended up where you are today.
Of course. So I grew up in France. I started with my previous company, my first job, that is also a family-owned company, a manufacturing company, doing adhesive tapes and die-cut products for the industry. I worked with them in France as part of my school program. We had like something over there in France that's becoming quite popular. It's like part-time school, part-time work. So you spend 2 weeks at school, 2 weeks at work, something like this, and then you learn basically while having your degree at the same time. So I started with them doing business development in France and Germany mostly. And then because I got exposed to China through my school as well, I went to do an academic exchange there. I decided to stay with this company and develop their activity in China. And I did that for 6 years. And that was quite an experience. I learned very tough business development, I would say, in a very different culture than what we have in Europe. And after that, after 6 years in China, I decided to move to the US, where I kept on doing the same thing for the same company, doing these adhesive tapes, and selling and developing. But we didn't have any manufacturing facilities. So after a couple of years, it turned out to be a little bit difficult to do that in the US. And I had this amazing opportunity that I'm currently pursuing with Argent, where I lead basically everything sales, marketing, sales, service, for them on the East Coast, and we have 2 manufacturing locations. So that was quite a step up for me with this position to get into actually the whole scope of the sales activity, basically, and to work more in depth with people in the US rather than just with France, Mexico, China. Here we have like a lot of people here in the US working in the company. So yeah.
So it sounds like you went from a very unrelated industry or something very different into something that's now very fulfilling for you. And you said you're the director of sales, you get to tap into the marketing group. So when you think about just the challenges that you've experienced in moving to a new country and take working for a new company, what were some of those things?
It's a good question. I mean, that's very personal. I think everyone is a little bit different on what they struggle with or what they thrive in. For me, I would say the most the most I'm gonna be very pragmatic, but I think what you struggle the most with is all the admin situation and uncertainty. I think it's a little bit underestimated by people how much struggle or challenge it can be to have the proper visa, to have the proper administrative situation, get your paperwork on done correctly, set up a company, which is what I did at the first time. So making sure you make the right choices in terms of company creation, and then finding the right people to work with, partners like accounting, all this kind of thing. That was really the main challenge I had at first. And then after that, more related to what I do now, it's really about most likely the cultural differences, the way that people will do things in Europe, in France versus the US versus China, and what you can do, what you cannot do, what you can say, what you cannot say, what's going to be working and positive, and what's going to be on the contrary more difficult, and etc. I think that's really what I'm into right now, and honestly learning every day. To be, I'm still learning every day.
What are some of the things that you've done to work through the cultural differences that you've experienced?
I think um, very I think very simply, in a way, is trying to understand the culture where you are into, basically, and there's no magical recipe. I don't think there's a magical recipe there. I think you have to spend some time. You have to get genuine curiosity and interest into the people you work with, their culture. I'm here right now in New York area in New Jersey. It's quite multicultural, to be honest. It's not it's this is US. It's not one. It's hard to say there's one culture, so you have to adapt to that as well. Um, and then I would say read a lot of books on the subject, listen to podcasts such like yours, listen to your peers and to the people you work with, but genuinely listen to them and not just have your preconceptions. That's probably the most difficult part. We all have a bias, so you want to listen to people and say, okay, let's put my bias away and let's see the perspective and see then how I can reconcile that with my own being, my own perception on this. Yeah.
I think oftentimes people really don't think about that bias that they have. And sometimes our bias can be deep seated. Sometimes we don't even realize that, oh, I prefer, like for instance, I prefer to sit on the left side of the airplane when I'm flying. Like it's just a preference. It's just my bias. That is it. And something as small as that is a bias. But in business, when we have those biases from, well, I'm not going to work with this kind of person, or I don't buy from these kind of companies, it really impacts not just the culture of the organization, but it also impacts how we go to market, how we sell.
Of course. And on top of that, I would say the next level of challenge with that is that it's not enough to know about your bias. I mean, if you work a little bit in that environment that we're in, you will eventually know that you have a bias. But how do you, in business, accommodate other people's bias and other people's perception on things while still being true to yourself? You know what I mean? Like, you can say, okay, I know what are my bias, I know what I shouldn't do, but I also know what I really want to do. So how do I make that work together? And that's what I think that's the key. That's the that's the difficult part. You often can have like these genius sales leaders that have this um, very good ideas, very good methodology on selling or on developing their business, and it looks like they have their own world, they have their own path, and they never steer away from this path. And I feel like this is a little bit personally, I think this is a little bit wrong to see it this way. I think you have to understand what other people are doing and then make the conscious choice of saying, I can do that, I can compromise on that, I cannot do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the meeting of the minds, right? Because everybody brings their whole self to work every single day. So we bring our childhood, bring our culture, we bring all of those things. And so it's our job, especially in sales, which is a difficult thing to do. We have to meet somebody where they are. We don't want to shrink ourselves. We don't want to shrink what we have inherently, but we want to meet that person where they are so that we can in turn speak their language, so we can solve their problems, so that they feel like they are that we are a trusted advisor of theirs.
Yep, 100%. I agree with that. I think if I take another analogy, I think there is, in negotiation especially, there is two conflicting um, situation for each and every one of us. You have empathy and assertivity. And
Mm.
then you have to be able, if you want to be, I believe in that, at least myself, that you have to be good at both. And if you're too empathetic, if you just are a super good listener, but you're not able to articulate what is your position, what do you want, where do you want to be, that's not going to work. On the contrary, if you're just assertion, which is often, what's confused for being a good negotiator, just full assertivity, and you can be very good at saying what you want, but you don't spend a lot of time listening to the other person's take and what they really want actually. Then the negotiation and the job becomes very complicated because it's not one path, it's two paths that can diverge and go far away from each other, basically.
And so when you think about how your organization is set up, you kind of mentioned the impact of sales leadership. Tell us a little bit more about how your sales team is organized and why you decided to do it that way.
So first thing is I inherited a sales team. I didn't create it myself. So, but
Okay.
this being said, I think this is pretty standard in manufacturing industry. You have account managers or outside sales, sales executive, basically, that are dealing with the customer fronting relationship, basically developing new business, trying to get new projects to be quoted. Everything that goes really pretty much before the sales is, I would say, finalized. That's what I would put in their backyard. And I would say traditionally in manufacturing, not saying that it's the best uh, organization, but traditionally these people tends to be both hunters and farmers. Um, and then you have what you can call service department or inside sales that are here to support basically these projects that are coming in, and then making sure that they go through the whole process, internal process to be delivered basically to the customer. There is overlap here and there, account manager can be involved into some things and vice versa. But I think in general that's how it's organized. Um, and yeah, and for me, I would say the main challenge that I've discovered really early in my current organization is that confusion really that especially in manufacturing, business to business manufacturing companies, exists between hunters and farmers. People want people to do everything,
Yeah.
and it takes just two different personalities, two different skill set, two different allocation of your time. So you're asking people to be bipolar, and it's really hard. Some people can do that, but I think it's really hard. So what I've been working on most recently is separating that. So we have proper or pure dedicated account managers that are able to deal with a couple of accounts, and their mission is to nurture that relationship, making sure that the customer feel valued, feels that their needs is met every single time, that when they have a question they have someone to talk to. And then we have other individual here to purely go after new leads, and they are less technical, less available for maintenance stuff, I would say, but more into opening doors and trying to understand, okay, who can we work with, and then they can pass that to someone that will help them and convert into a project, into a sales.
Yeah, the unicorn salesperson is not actually a thing where they're really good at cold calling or hunting or top of the funnel, and then they know how to nurture and hold somebody's hand because, as you said, it's two completely different skill sets. Like, I can't expect, if I want you to be quick and fast and have 20 calls a day or whatever, I can't expect you to also sit on a 2-hour meeting when I'm doing discovery, right? And so it seems like you saw that very quickly and you said, let's split this up. So as you have rolled out this new structure, what are some of the successes that you've seen within the organization?
Well, it's an ongoing process. So to talk about true success, we'll have to wait a little bit longer. But the success that I met, I would say, is that right now with the pure account management team, I think I'm very lucky and very happy with the people I have in the team that have been thriving in this position, and customer also recognize that, and I think enjoy working with them. So I think in a way removing a little bit that burdens of having this uh, potential hard pressure from the management on saying, okay, you need to find new leads, you need to find new leads, allow them to actually fully thrive and feel confident and comfortable into that account management position that I'm actually want them to focus on and be good at. Um, on the business development side, that's where it's an ongoing process, and I can see already that we have some good leads, and we have some very like we have more time paradoxically to go after these people. And what is going to be key is how do we ensure the transition from this warmish lead or cold/warm lead into actual sales and project. How do we do that conversion? How does that go smoothly without creating conflicts between the individuals and the customer relation, basically? Yeah. And I don't have the answer for that yet. I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see that in a couple of months. But
Yeah, it's the data. You're in the data gathering phase, right? You're trying to figure out what will work, what isn't working, and I think that we start with a hypothesis. We know like, in other industries they don't do this because in most this is I think this manufacturing field sales this is one of the only industries where we expect our salespeople to do it all. And whereas if you think about like in SaaS or in the tech world, they have always had it split up, right? You have the person who gets the leads, then you have the nurture person, then you have that customer success person. So they have it split up. And really taking that approach that you're taking, I know that in time it will pan out.
I think, yeah, thank you. I hope so too. I think it also revolves around the fact that, by essence, really, if you're in manufacturing, you sell what you make, and you're not
Yes.
making what you sell. So, and I think in
Yes.
software, in other industry, it's a little bit more, you sell, you make what you sell. And then, so the salesperson are extremely efficient and potent people. They sell something and then deal with it. So that's not exactly how it can work in manufacturing, I believe, because there is a very high likelihood that you're not going to be able at all to do what you said you would if you don't know what you're talking about. And worse than that, actually, you won't be taken seriously and you won't get another chance at that. So I think that probably is why there is this big difference in both worlds.
You made a really good point because when I was in sales, I sold capital equipment, so essentially manufacturing. And sometimes you're talking to somebody and they want all this customization, and our company was like, we can't customize every instrument. We just can't do it. We can do some light customization, but we can't customize everything. And so having that relationship, and for me as a salesperson, I had to help the customer understand why they didn't need all that stuff. Like, you really don't need all of these things. I know you
Right.
want them, but let me help you understand why it's not important. And so you're right. It is having a solution that's not just inside the box, right? It's not like, here, go sign up for the software, buy this widget that's off the shelf. You have to have a little more of that technical acumen and really understand what drives that customer.
Yeah, agreed.
So, as you're going through this transition of really focusing on changing up how the sales team is aligned, what kind of things have you done to upskill them to get them to where you need them to be?
Yeah. So I think if you want your team, so depending on what you're talking about, but if you're talking about the account management, as I said, like freeing them some time to focus on the pure account management is one element of it. And then from there, I think the challenge that we face is, again, probably also, especially in manufacturing companies, or in any sales organization, is to be asking to the salespeople to do a lot of different things other than selling, which are, let's be honest, it's absolutely essential that you have some kind of, like, data reporting, KPIs, etc. You need these in order to see where you stand and what's the future, or what kind of decision can we make, how do you price things, etc. But the risk is that the salespeople spend so much time doing that and are a little bit not clueless, but not really well equipped to deal with that. That in the end, they really are feeling overwhelmed and feeling overworked, feeling not thriving and doing sales, basically. So one of the things that worked the most as the manager in that organization is to be very hands-on, to understand what were their pain point. Like, when I'm asking them this reporting, what does actually look like to do it? So if I'm not able to do it, why am I expecting them to do it? So you know what I mean? So basically, building these tools internally to make their life easier, and streamlining this operation for them to make it easier for them and not harder, and not asking them to spend so much time on doing that. That's one thing. Another thing that is also, I would say, very hands-on is to make sure that their experience, their, again, part of the toolbox that they have internally is seamless, is good, is adapted to what the customer wants. So adequation between the estimation team, the production, the quality team, and what they need to give to their customer. Example, customer has a quality issue. All too often, I see that being pushed into the sales and say, okay, deal with that quality issue. No, no, no. The sales is not going to deal with the quality issue. The quality issue is going to be dealt by the quality team. The sales can come in at some point if there is some commercial things to deal with, but it should really be the responsibility of the quality team to deal with that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that what you're doing is so important because oftentimes I find salespeople when I'm doing training and I'm like, okay, you guys are doing the wrong activities. I need you to do this more, this more, this. They're like, but we don't have time, Wesley. I'm working 10 hours a day. And when you drill into it, it's like, well, look, all these customer issues are coming in and the service department isn't handling because they're overtaxed, or, oh, I have to do all my own quotes, or this happens, or that happens. And I'm like, so here's the challenge. If you never tell your manager or your leader that you're dealing with all of these fires, then they can't help you work through them, right? And it seems like you've really taken the bull by the horn and said, okay, I'm going to take these things off of you. You don't need to be answered. It is a quality issue. Yes, you acknowledge it, you hand it off, and then you only tap in if there's a sales opportunity because we're here to sell, guys.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to. Let's be fair. I'm trying to do that. I'm not sure that I do that all the time, but I'm trying to. And I would take the analogy of the problem I think most organizations meet is that it's a little bit that I don't know how to say that in English, but you know when you're doing crochet, you have that ball of a yarn, and then it's all tangled on itself, like sometimes. And so basically, these kind of issues that we just talked about, sometimes they're a little bit like that ball of yarn, and you don't know how to entangle them. It's just too complicated. There's so many knots, and unfortunately, the only option is to go like spend the time, the actual time, and go one knot by one knot. And I'm gonna make that yarn ball something organized, something streamlined that you won't have to deal every single time that you work with. And another point as well, which my boss actually is always repeating to me, and I really like that. It's about understanding who's the customer. When you're being asked to do something, what's the purpose of that, and who's the customer, who's the
Mm,
supplier? So
that's good.
a management organization asks you for this data. Do they do that because that helps you sell, or do they do that because that helps them sell themselves somewhere else in the organization? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so at some point you have to be realistic about this thing and say, okay, if that's going to help me sell, I'm going to do it 100%. If that's in the end just because you can then show that to your own boss and blah, 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 honestly, that's not really a good thing to do for the organization. So that's what we're trying to do, at least in my organization, saying, okay, we focus on what's going to be helpful for us. So every time I build a tool and I bother them with some reporting and stuff, I'm trying really hard to explain them, this is going to help you this way. I'm not doing this just because I want you to do this. I'm doing this because eventually I want you to use it, and I'm not going to use it. That's for you.
Yeah. Whenever we roll out new tools to sales people, it's really important to help them understand this is going to help you sell, and if you sell you make more money. So this is the reason why we're doing the thing, because we
That's
say, oh, we have this new CRM or we have this new data. It's like, this is just a waste of my time. I need to go get in front of customers. But if you break it down and say, hey, I know this is going to take you 45 minutes to set up, but it's going to make you move faster, and this moving faster is going to help you be in front of customers more, right? And I think that we don't do a good job as leaders selling to our salespeople. Like, that is who our customer is, the salesperson. You need to sell to them. Just like you sell to a third party customer, you have to sell these ideas to them.
100%. That's a good point. Like, yeah.
So when you think about, just motivating your team, how do you really get more drive and get more motivation in them as a sales organization?
I think it's a very it's a difficult question because every individual is different, and that's where we go back to maybe cultural differences as well. Um, we're sales, so I think probably the main motivation from people in sales is money. So the thing is, if you only manage incentives and motivation, like motivation, sorry, by monetary incentive, you quickly become, I would say, a distribution company, or I would say, something that is a little bit far away from what manufacturing companies are and what they thrive in on the long term. So that's really the trick: is how can you balance the ambition and the rightful, I would say, ambition of people to get more money with more deep and meaningful um, motivations, which is, I would say, most of the time in manufacturing, at least, there is one. It can be, by example, the true interest in their product, the true interest in their market, in the customer market. Uh, I think that's really deep as well. And then sometimes we shouldn't overlook as well just simply the culture, the company culture, and say, okay, I feel good in this company. I feel good with my colleagues. They have my back. I'm not being stabbed every other week in the back. I can trust my manager, and he has my back. These kind of things. So that, I think that's what I'm trying to work on every day, to make sure that they understand that I'm trying really hard to have their back, and maybe I cannot give everything that they would like immediately, but we can work on something together on the long term. The challenge is not everyone is on the same timeline. So sometimes you have a variety of a timeline, and people just have a different one. And who's right? It's hard to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like meeting people where they are, because every person is in a different place in their journey, right? And I like to really connect their compensation to what's important to them. Like, are you trying to pay off debt, or maybe you're trying to send a child to college debt free? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that really understanding those intricacies of your salespeople helps you as a leader speak their language more.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I know that's probably a very standard answer, but so we have like performance reviews and touch points with the team. I'm trying to have as many as I can, um, and I think that's a very important time to actually, so not only listen obviously, but actually figure out what is that person wants. And I would say at some point just simply ask them, like,
Yeah.
and say, okay, what is it that you want? Because oftentimes people come with their frustration, with their problems, but they don't come with their what they want, their motivation. So sometimes your job as a manager, I believe, is to manage to put that conversation back on the table and say, okay, um, all these pain points, we're going to work on it. But actually, what is that you want? Where do you see yourself? You know what I mean? That's not an easy thing to do, because you get absorbed into the daily whirlwind of things and then focusing on the negative in the end, rather than trying to say, okay, now I understand you're not happy with that. So how do we get you to someone better? And unfortunately, you don't always have the immediate opportunity, but the earlier you can do it, the better you can try to propose a path towards that, basically.
Yes, that's so good. So when we think about we looked back, we kind of talked about where we are current state. So look to the future. Where do you see your company and your sales organization in 5 years?
Um, Yeah, so I think we are. My company is, although the name is not really well known for from the public, it is one of the leader in what we do in luxury secondary packaging in folding cartons. We are really well recognized and established in especially in the cosmetic industry. And I think what we want to do is making sure that the offering that we have, the offering of product that we have, is covering the footprint of product that we have is covering the full planet, basically the globe. What we can offer in Europe, we can offer in the US, we can offer in Asia. Right now, by example, in the US, we only do folding cartons. So the strategic orientation of the company is to expand that offer to other product that we also offer in Europe. But also, so that's one way of expanding, but also through different markets. We have a good footprint in pharmaceutical products, pharma cottons in France or in Europe. We would like to be able to do that in the US as well. So diversification in the market as well. Um, and after that, from our standpoint in the US, um, it's going to stem out of these two branches. Basically, what's going to be our acquisition, what's going to be our growth path, most likely going to be into these two branches, basically. Personally, on a personal or from my team perspective, my goal is to have very solid mid-management people, especially for the service department, but also for the we have two facilities. So for the local account management team, um, having I don't know if I should say that, but having someone that could replace me, identified and ready to be there, should anything happen to me, I think is important because you can't be too selfish. Otherwise, I don't think you're doing a good job if you're being selfish in this position. Um, so yeah, that's the plan, and it's tough because right now, at the past 2 years, have been a lot of me taking 17 people on my own and not really having mid management to rely on. So that's a challenge. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So it sounds like lots of growth, lots of expansion, investing in people. And I don't think that it's wrong to say knowing who your replacement is, because we should all have a succession plan, right? We should all know who the person is that we want to step in, because that person that will step in, they're actually taking things off of us. So you can like think about what your next step is, on your journey within your organization. Or again, if something may happen to you and you have to take extended leave.
Yeah, that, but I mean, I don't want to be so pessimistic. I don't think I don't foresee anything happening to me, but it's more about, yeah, being able as an organization to be agile
Yeah.
and move with what's happening, and what's happening in the world. Every single year now there's something new and very dramatic. So I
Mhm.
would say, if you're not ready to be agile and easily adapt to this situation, because you're because you're rigid, because you are too lean, or I don't know, like too focused into one system, or reliant on one on a couple of people. I think that's a big risk for an organization. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I am curious if you could give someone advice. Well, no, if you would give advice to your younger self, what would you tell him?
Uh, I've heard these questions like millions of times. I never know what to answer, to be honest. I feel like, in my like, you asked me the question for myself, so I
Yeah.
don't want to give anyone's advice. But for myself, I have nothing that I could advise myself when I was younger. I feel like what I've done was what I've done, and there might have been some stuff that could have done differently, and that would have really changed my life in a very dramatic way. So I, I, I think you just live your life, make the choice with whatever you have on hand when you make them, and don't really regret it and enjoy that. I think that's the best way to approach things. Now, again, I say that because my life situation has been honestly very easy and blessed. So it's easier, when you have this kind of situation where I've never really uh, had like life-threatening challenges, or I come from a country and a family situation that's been easy. So yeah, uh, I, I would say honestly, do whatever I did, like, which is travel, go see what's happening in the world, and enjoy that. And yeah.
Well, to not have done anything differently, I think that is good. It sounds like be authentic, be true to who you are, and just enjoy life.
And I say that without any arrogance. It's like, I just say, like, I'm very happy of what I've done so far,
That's
and like,
good. That's good. That's good. Well, Thomas, this has been a fantastic conversation. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the one best way?
well, obviously, LinkedIn, probably. I'm trying to be active and responsive on LinkedIn. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way. You can send me a react on some of the posts that I do there, or send me a message, and I'll be happy to try and help and answer questions as much as I can. Recently, we had actually that was really interesting. There was a class of students from a university in France, Panthéon-Assas, which is a master degree class of students that had a visit, a school visit, basically in the US. Well, very lucky for them. But they had this visit for a week, and they were trying to reach out to companies to visit them during their trip. And I thought it was fantastic. Like, and it was all their initiative. Basically, they were organizing that. So I got in touch with them through Facebook, random luck, and they came and visited the facility, the whole group, like 30 students.
Wow.
And I felt it was very nice to have this interaction with them. So that's why I'm saying, let's not be shy, and I try to be responsive to anyone who reach out to me, and I hope anyone can be as well when I try to reach out to them.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for your time, your talent, and your expertise. It has been a great engagement, a great chat today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.